What's going on, everybody? Today on the show, today's guest needs no introduction, as I'm pretty sure that you've been seeing him all around on his multifamily movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Jullien Gordon. Jullien, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
So happy to be here, man. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. We'll jump right into this. So you mentioned yourself as the Harriet Tubman and trying to get 300 individuals to be not so much being a free slave, but free with consciousness, free with spirituality, freedom with time, wealth, money, things like that. Talk to us what made you want to go into that, or talk to us like how that started, and then we'll go into your brand new book, Rich and Righteous.
Yeah. Great question. So, I have my heavenly work and I have my earthly work, and my journey has always been focused on getting clarity on my life's purpose and how that unfolds here. So, my heavenly work obviously is financial spirituality as manifested through the Rich and Righteous book, and that movement that is going to unfold from that book, teaching financial spirituality and how we establish a healthier relationship with money and use this stored energy called money to do more good, more God on this earth. My earthly work is actually multifamily real estate. And so, as you know, I built a significant portfolio in Brooklyn, Oakland, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge. And I think it's really important for us to reconcile both. Scripture says on earth as it is in heaven. And so for me, heaven is our mental experience of life, and earth is our physical or material experience of life. And so before I came out with Rich and Righteous, I knew that it was important for me to manifest and demonstrate in the earthly realm and the physical realm before I came out with this message. There's a lot of people who teach manifestation and all this stuff, right? But they just could keep it all the way. The pendulum is all the way on this side, right? You've seen the movies like The Secret and things of that nature. But I wanted to demonstrate physically first, and then let people know that before I owned any physical real estate, it was my mental real estate that I owned. It was up here that I owned, because you are both in the real estate game, and buying a house is not hard. But what blocks people, right, is actually the mental game. Oh, I can't afford it. How am I going to make this work? What if tenants don't pay? This and that. And that's just mental blockages. Even with Jonathan being in the mortgage space, you have people who think that they can afford real estate and they've never been pre-approved. They have no clue how the bank looks at them. They have no clue how a multifamily is actually financed, and that it's actually easier to buy a multifamily home than it is to buy a single family home. But simply because people don't know enough, they hold themselves back and they're sitting on the sidelines when they could have been playing in this game a long time ago and benefiting from all the appreciation that real estate is experiencing and has experienced historically.
You're definitely a lot well-rounded. Just hearing you speak, everything connects from your earthly mindset and everything in between. Where was the first step to find your purpose? How did you find your actual purpose? Bring us to the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning was, it was actually in the summer of 2001. I had bought a Mercedes Benz. It was a used 1990 190E. I just finished my first year of college at UCLA. And I was promoting parties at the time. So I was exploring entrepreneurship by being a party promoter. And I pulled into a parking lot around midnight to pass out flyers for my upcoming party. I had 3 other friends in the car. And the moment I got out the car, or turned off the engine, 2 men walked up to the car with guns drawn. And all of a sudden, I'm staring down the barrel of a gun. So without words being exchanged, the keys were exchanged and the car was gone just like that. And so, near-death experiences oftentimes serve as wake-up calls for folks. And I realized at that moment that I wasn't actually living out my life. I was living out my parents' vision for my life. The only reason I bought a Mercedes Benz is because both my parents had Mercedes Benzes. It was not the best car for me to buy as a first-year college student, right? It would have made sense for me to get a Honda Civic. But because I had been programmed in such a way, I bought a car that I didn't need, and that attracted attention that I didn't need. And I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. So fortunately, that summer I was an RA, so I had housing and food taken care of. But I put all my money into fixing the car before I even started driving it. So I was now broke at this moment in time. I didn't have any money. And so I had housing and food taken care of. And I went through a deep space of introspection. Like, why did this happen to me? What does this mean? And I realized that I was living other people's definition of success and not my own. And so I asked myself, in this deep space of solitude where I wasn't going out because I didn't have any money to go out, why am I here? Why am I here? Why are we all here? And why am I here, most importantly? And I got clarity that my work in this world was to help people walk in their purpose on a daily basis. That was my deepest desire. And that's where I found the greatest fulfillment. So it wasn't until like 8 years later, November 22nd, 2008, where I did my first workshop based on my first book called The 8 Cylinder of Success. And that was in my living room in Brooklyn, New York. And I invited 8 people over to get clarity on their life purpose. I documented everything in the book, but before I put the book out into the world, I wanted to make sure that the principles not only applied to me, but they applied to other people. And so on November 10th, I sent out an email inviting 8 people to come to my living room for a full day experience called Driving School for Life. And when I sent out that email, I had nothing planned for November 22nd. I had nothing planned. But the moment I got the RSVPs over the next 12 days, I had to show up. I had to create a full experience where people would get clarity on their life purpose. So 8 people came that day. They had an amazing experience. And I went on to teach that program in several different cities to hundreds of young professionals all across the country. And that began my work as my old superhero name was the Purpose Finder. And so as I was teaching these workshops, I was helping people get clarity on their life purpose. But their next biggest blockage, once they got clarity on their life purpose, was actually not being able to monetize it. And so that was extremely frustrating to know why you're here, but then not be able to have a business model that supported it and allowed you to walk in it on a daily basis. You see people doing it as a mentor, volunteering on the side, right? And they would rather be doing that all day, but they have to figure out this financial piece. And so for me, because I went to business school and I understood, I was starting to understand how business and value creation and value capture occurred. I recognized that we all have a blessing model. Many people are great givers and understand their blessing model, how they give to the world. You all are engaged in your blessing model right now by giving of your time through this podcast. But what people were struggling with was actually having a business model to support that. So your blessing model is how you give to the world, right? But your business model is how you receive so that you can keep giving more and more and more. And so that led me to start teaching, digital marketing, how to build businesses online. And it also led me to multifamily real estate. So I started traveling all across the country, speaking in different cities, at colleges, companies, etc. And I would take that profit from that business and I would dump it into real estate. And over time, my portfolio just kept growing and expanding. And people started asking me more questions about my real estate portfolio than anything else. And my first property, I bought it in Brooklyn, New York, my triplex. I bought it in May of 2013. And that purchase, after renting in New York, and you know how rents are in New York, right? They're extremely high. That purchase created so much freedom in me. It didn't give me the full freedom, but it created rent and mortgage freedom. And I knew that that was a critical step in people actually walking in their purpose, right? Because now I haven't paid a housing expense since May of 2013. So in order to help people walk in their purpose, I was like, okay, let me help them get this physical, tangible, financial asset to remove their housing expense, for which for most people is about 1/3 of their income goes to housing, whether that is rent or mortgage, right? If I can just get that off the books, it'll move them one step closer to being able to walk in their God-given purpose on a daily basis. And so that's how I've tied the two together. So yeah, that's been the journey. And so I felt that it was time for Rich and Righteous, the mental models, right, and financial spirituality to come into the world after I had demonstrated with my own real estate portfolio. And so that's what brings me here at this moment in time.
The interesting part of the book, which we'll actually go into right now, Rich and Righteous, which ironically, I saw that you wrote this or got inspired like during the pandemic. So this is when the world is, I don't want to say burning down, but obviously there's so much things that's going on in the world, even to this day, which obviously, with it being in such a spiritual warfare, you being enlightened to write that book during a time like COVID. the one of the biggest takeaways, and I just started reading the book, but one of the biggest takeaways, and I saw you speak about it when you were on Ash Cash's podcast, was the spiritual piece talks so much about the abundance, our inheritance, who we are in God, that everything that He has promised, like we can experience. And for some reason, this is the ultimate promise. Like, here you are, like, I got you. And for some reason, it's still hard. Me as a Christian, which I don't want this show necessarily to be about religion and spirituality or anything like that. We're keeping it open. But as Christians or anybody that follows any religion, there are things that we are taught, but we can't follow. And in this case of Rich and Righteous, which you're talking about the creation part, the manifestation part, the abundance part, the having everything you need right then and there at that point part. The biggest takeaway I got so far was that, and you mentioned that the heart, not this heart, receiving, because you just said this is our blessing, this is how we're giving, this is how we're serving, right? Because we're able to build the life that we're looking for the more that we help others and serve others, right? And as you said, money is just stored energy in which one service or energy, value, exchange. The biggest thing that you mentioned was that it is a skill to receive and be in the mindset to receive, which I want to talk about that aspect from your book of Rich and Righteous. Why is it so hard that we find it tough to receive or ask for more?
Yeah, great question. So that's a loaded one. Obviously, the book is there to dig into it, but I'll give you some high level stuff. Obviously, in Christianity, you have the figurehead being Jesus, and Jesus is painted as a sacrificial figure. And so when you have your figurehead being this sacrificial figure that seemed like he gave everything and didn't really receive, right? Then you trying to model that and be Christ-like put you in a position where you think I need to be sacrificial, right? So much so that I give my life to everybody, when that I don't receive, and that's what's going to get me closer to God. That's what's going to get me into heaven, etc. And so it's really trying to model this false narrative about this sacrificial lamb, so to say. Now, Jesus said that I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And again, these principles that I've extracted are not Christian principles. I've used the Bible, and we know that the Bible is not a Christian book, right? It existed before Christianity was there. So I've been able to extract these universal principles from the Bible, but they apply to anyone and everywhere. It's like gravity. It applies to anyone everywhere, whether you're aware of it or not. And so I believe that the Bible is one of the richest books ever to be written. And that's what I've been given the insight and intuition to be able to go and look at that. So when you have your figurehead being the sacrificial lamb, we think that we need to be that in order to get to heaven. But we already know that scripture says that the kingdom of heaven is here now in your midst and within, right? We also know that Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And of course, there's scripture that says it's better to give than to receive. But if you constantly give and you never receive, then what happens to your ability to give?
It diminishes.
You end up empty, burned out, frustrated, resentful, and tired. And so your ability to receive actually increases your ability to give. So I do agree that it is better to give than to receive. But in order to continue giving and to give at a higher level, you have to be receiving from somewhere, somehow, to increase your capacity. So in the book, I talk about the 3 buckets. There's the first bucket, which is the colander. And the colander has a whole bunch of holes in it, right? It's like what you might use to strain spaghetti or something like that, right? You can pour the entire ocean into a colander and it will still end up empty, right? So that's the first one. The second one is just a traditional bucket. Now, a traditional bucket only has a receiving function. It is there and it's holding the water. But that is not the original purpose and intent for the water to be held in a bucket. Water is not useful just sitting in a bucket, right? The third one that we actually want to be is the watering can. The watering can has a receiving function and it has a spout, which is a giving function. right? And this is what I found God wants to pour into, because it knows that you are not going to just hoard and store the water, but that you're actually going to channel the water to where it's meant to go. And the same applies for money. When we talk about money and water and money operate in the very same way. The reason we call it currency is because it's supposed to have a current, just like water, right? Water also takes the path of least resistance. So if you are blocking God with your own limiting beliefs, I mean, just think about that. You or we all come from the most abundant source of everything. It is the source of everything. Right. Yet right. We put mental limitations on the source of everything. Right. So it is our scarcity mindset that blocks us. And the scarcity mindset is fourfold. It's not believing that there's enough for us. It's not believing that there's enough in general. There's not believing that we are enough. And then it's not believing that God is enough. And so when we move in a mindset of scarcity, we actually cut off God. God wants to pour into us constantly, but we are the ones that have the limiting beliefs that stop God from allowing God to pour into us and for our cup to run it over. So it is a mental block, and you can only receive as much as you believe you are capable of receiving. And so once we expand and recognize that abundance is our birthright, then we move differently. So if I'm a millionaire, is my daughter a millionaire? Yes, she's already a millionaire. Now, she may not have the million yet. She might not even be aware of it, and she might not be ready to receive that $1 million. But she is already a millionaire because she is my offspring. Well, if we are children of the Most High and the creator of everything, then guess what? Then we are abundant beings. We are abundant beings when we know our birthright and we know our connection to that source. So it's really important, especially in this age where people are saying, go create 7 revenue streams, this and that, whatnot. It's really important to be clear on who your source, what your source is and what your streams are. Okay. The source of my wealth is not real estate. The source of my wealth is always God, and real estate is one of the streams through which God pours into me through. And so never confuse the stream as your source. Some people think their job is their source of income. No, it is not your source. It is a stream, one stream that your creator, however you define it, whatever you call it, and whatever you believe, pours through you, through the world into you with, but it is not the source. And so once you're clear on what the source is, it allows you to move differently and move with more power and with more faith, because you're not relying on these man-made things like real estate or job as your source. You are actually going and connecting with your creator, which is the highest source and greatest source of all.
Awesome. So you mentioned you speak a lot about mindset and different things. I'm not sure if you actually describe this in one of your movements, but do you prepare the people within the movement to work on their mindset first before starting into real estate or starting into any type of business? Because it sounds like you do, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes, it all starts with the mind, right? The mind is the fertile soil through which good and rich thought seeds are planted. But if the mind is not open, right? If the subconscious mind is the fertile soil, and if it's not ready to receive, then no matter what you plant in it, it will not bear fruit. Right. So we have to do our best to actually prepare the mind to receive first before we actually just start adding on. We know the parable of the seeds being scattered. Right. Some were scattered on rocks. Some were scattered on hard dirt. Right. Which is just a hard head. Right. And then some were scattered on fertile soil. And the ones that were scattered on fertile soil, those are the ones that reaped 100-fold. And so this is a mindset thing first. It always is, because a lot of the tactical things in terms of real estate are on the internet. The how-tos, they're out there, right? You can go look at podcasts, blog posts, books, YouTube videos, etc. But if all the information is out there, right, why haven't more people gotten to the game, right? If people want to lose weight, the information is out there. You got free workout videos on YouTube and you got free recipes, right, on the internet. The information is out there. But what's stopping people? It is their mindset and the actual accountability to take action, because the truth alone will not set you free. It is acting on the truth that will set you free. We can know the truth, but if we don't act on it, then we won't experience the truth in our life, and we will stay in the mindset of believers instead of being knowers. You can only be a knower once you've actually experienced something. And we're moving into the age of moving from just believing things to actually knowing them because we demonstrated them in our lives. When we look at Jesus, for example, and again, this is not Christian, we're just using this as a narrative, right? He was a public demonstrator. Everything he did was in public. He was demonstrating publicly. And so we have that same power as children of God, right? To actually demonstrate. And one way that I'm demonstrating is through my real estate portfolio. Another way that I'm demonstrating is through the expansion of the rich and righteous movement. These are various ways that I demonstrate the God in me in the world.
I love how you're tying everything in. So put it like this: we have believers and we have non-believers. We have people that have exercised that muscle, that spirituality muscle, and we have people that are a little bit more weaker in that aspect. For someone, for example, like if we take yourself, I'm pretty sure your manifestation process is a little bit different because you know how to tap more into your creator than, say, someone who's just stepping along the paths of their faith, right? So you're able to kind of switch that knob on if you've never. So if you're like, okay, the goal for next year is to, do 500, free 500 people instead of 300 people through my courses. You haven't experienced that yet, but I'm pretty sure that manifestation technique and skill is worked out a little bit more in your head, where you're able to tap into that and start believing that a little bit more. For somebody who is just starting on that path and maybe they haven't been the best with money, they haven't had the most success in business, and you know what they say, seeing is believing. How can someone, or what techniques or strategies would you suggest, or actions would you suggest for someone to start developing that faith besides reading? Because I feel like it'll always start there, but there's still something, like you said, where we can read all the podcasts, we hear it, we go to church, we have all those those inputs, but there's something happens where that input and then the output of the action falls short. And for somebody that's starting fresh, how do they develop that mindset, or not the mindset, but how do they develop that that piece where they're able to develop their faith? How do they strengthen and develop their faith?
It's a great question. So remember, seeing is not believing, right? Seeing is not, well, for some people, seeing is believing. But then if that is the case, then you have to wait to see something in order for it to unfold in your life. And you'll be limited by your eyes as opposed to your imagination, right?
But I do believe that you can have all five senses and not like through your mind, like you were saying, like through your mind, you can see without your eyes, you can hear without your ears, you can smell, you can taste without your like actual extremities. And like, but go ahead.
100%. You were right. I mean, there's a lot of people daydreaming on their day job right now. They're literally sitting in a cubicle, but they're imagining themselves on the beach in Barbados. They're hearing the waves right now. They see a pina colada in their right hand right now, but they are actually in a cubicle. So the imagination has no limits except that which you put on it. So when we are made in God's image, it's really, we are made in God's imagination. Because we're not made in God's image. We made God in our image. God is not some big human being in the sky somewhere, right? So we were actually made in God's imagination, and our imagination gives us the power to create anything. And manifestation is really simply the process of believing in the unseen until it is seen. It is believing in the unseen until it is seen. That is it. That requires faith, right? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, yet not unseen, or not yet seen. And so that is really all manifestation is. A lot of people think manifestation is, oh, I thought about this yesterday and it manifested the next day. That's not, manifestation is not about the speed. And so when you understand that manifestation is not about the speed, in fact, manifestation has no timeline. When you're seeking to manifest something, you don't rely on man-made time as your gauge. Because if you put something out, a thought out in the world, and you say, oh, if this doesn't work in the next 30 days, and then I give up, you've already put a timeline on it, and you're already sending energy towards the failure of it. When you truly want to manifest something, you believe it until it occurs. That is it. It sounds simple, but we have these timelines that we put on things because we think, oh, it happened for Austin that quickly. So if it doesn't happen for me this quickly, I give up. Or it happened for Jonathan this quickly. And so if it don't happen for me that quickly, then I give up. Anytime you put a timeline on anything, God has no timelines. It can happen in the twinkling of an eye, or it could take 20 years. For Elon Musk to create Tesla, right, and become the world's richest man, that took 20 years since he cashed out of PayPal. But he believed it until it came to fruition. He probably didn't have a timeline. It could have took Elon another 2 decades and he would have still been at it because he would have not given up, right? So it is that belief that we need to move off of fossil fuels. It is that belief that we need to have solar power on all our roofs. And it is the belief that man can go into outer space that he held on to. And now you are seeing the manifestation of 20 plus years of belief. But people are, oh, Tesla's popping off. Tesla's that. No, this has been 20 years of belief in the unseen until it became seen. So that is the muscle that we have to exercise. But the reality is we're manifesting every single day. Now, the manifestation that you are having may not be the manifestation that you desire. Okay. But look, you got hungry. You said, I wanted a sandwich. That was a thought. From there, you took action. You got up. You put the bread and the meat and the mayonnaise, you put it all together. Now you have the sandwich that you imagine in your head. You manifested something. It's just something that was small and that only served you. So now let's take it to another level. How can you manifest something greater than that? How can you manifest a business? How can you manifest a movement, right? If you are manifesting, we're just manifesting on smaller scales because we don't, because of the limits that we've put on ourselves. There are no limits. I had a dog named Buddy, and Buddy literally, he was an outside dog, and his yard was connected to my bedroom at my dad's house. And so Buddy, literally, that's all he knew was this red fence in the side of the house for over a decade. That's literally all he knew. Then one day my dad said, you want to take Buddy for a walk? And I said, yeah, let's take Buddy for a walk. And so we got the leash out of the garage. We put it on Buddy, and Buddy couldn't wait. Buddy was like, what's going on, right? So we opened the red gate, and Buddy is literally dragging us for 30 minutes up the hill and back, right? When we put Buddy back in the gate and we went off to work in school on that Monday, we came home and guess what? Buddy was gone. Buddy was gone because Buddy had seen what was on the other side of the gate. There were no limits. Buddy could have hopped over the gate or dug a hole under the gate all this time. But it wasn't until Buddy saw what was on the other side that he realized that there were no limits and that this gate was a false boundary. It was a false boundary. We did find Buddy. We put him behind the gate again, patched up what we could. Tuesday, guess what? Buddy was gone. After that, we didn't see Buddy again. So we do the exact same thing with our beliefs by putting up these red fences that are blocking us. But the red fences are not real. They do not limit our experience. We can overcome them and actually experience this entire neighborhood, this entire city, this entire county, this entire state, this entire country, this entire world. That's what Buddy realized. But we constrain things with our own beliefs about what is possible, and therefore we choose from a limited menu. If you've ever been an In-N-Out Burger, In-N-Out Burger has its normal. Have you ever been an In-N-Out Burger? Mm-hmm. So In-N-Out Burger has a very simple menu: hamburger, cheeseburger, fries, milkshake, Coke, Sprite. That's like it, right? Mm-hmm. But that is what people see with their eyes, and therefore many people walk up to the counter and they order from that menu because they think that that's the only options that they have. But In-N-Out Burger has a hidden menu. You can go ask for your French fries or your burger animal style, and that's where they put grilled onions on it and things of that nature, but it's not on the menu. All the ingredients there are in the kitchen. But because most people only choose from the menu that they see, they are now choosing from a limited set of options when the hidden menu at In-N-Out is actually a lot bigger than the menu that they present to you. If you go up to the register and you say, can I get my burger animal style? The agent or the attendant at the register, they'll be like, okay, boom, 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 boom. They won't be like, what you talking about? They know that there's a hidden menu, but the average person doesn't know that there's a hidden menu. And so when you are truly experiencing the kingdom of God, you realize that your experience isn't limited by these two eyes, but that you have a third eye, which is actually your first eye up here, called your imagination, where you can see possibilities that don't exist yet in the physical. We see it in architecture, right? You start with a blueprint. Or you start with a blank plot of land. You and I develop real estate, right? We start with a blank plot of land. When you see that plot of land, you start imagining things that can be there. What kind of store can be there? What kind of fourplex can be there? You saw on my Instagram, I just put up a fourplex that we're building in Baton Rouge. That's a blank plot of land. We envision something. From there, so the thought is the 1D, first dimension. Second dimension is going and getting the blueprint for that, right? That's the second dimension. Now it's flat. It is on paper, right? Third dimension is going to get the 3D rendering of it. That's third dimension. Now I can start experiencing it. And even in some larger architectural projects, you'll actually get a physical model of the building, right? And then the fourth dimension is you actually being able to walk into that building and experience what you had originally envisioned in your mind. So we are manifesting in every way all throughout our days. We just haven't understood it as manifestation. And then we put in limits on what we believe we can manifest based on our own belief in ourselves and our own belief in our God, however you call it and whatever you define it as.
No, I think you touched on something very, very important. What I took it as, be stubborn on the timeline or goal. So keep going after it, but maybe flexible on the process. So each little small steps, you can be flexible, but with the end goal, if you want a multifamily property, you want to build a property, you want to do anything, whatever that goal is, want to build that portfolio, be stubborn. Like, do not quit. Do not until you obtain that goal itself.
That's it. 100%. Just keep locked in on what you want. But if you ask most people what they want, they honestly can't answer you. What do you want? I remember, what was that movie? The Notebook. There's this scene in The Notebook where he's like, what do you want? What do you want? And she's like,
I don't know what I want.
I don't know. That's not just her. Yeah, that is human beings. Yeah. We said we want it all, I want to have it all, etc. Okay, give me specifically what you want. If I was to see your life with a camera, what would you want? Okay, most people can't answer that. Once we answer that question and get clear about what we want, then we can actually start to cost that life out. Oh, you want this 3-bedroom home in this neighborhood? Okay. How much is that? You want this kind of car? You want your partner to have this kind of car? Okay, we can cost that out. Oh, you want this kind of clothes? You want to eat like this? We can cost that out. And when people actually do that, I think they'll find that what they want is not as expensive as they thought it to be. But because it's just this vague idea, you cannot hit a vague target. But because it's this vague idea, people think it's just, oh, I just need $1 million. No, you don't need $1 million. That's why you don't have $1 million. In fact, in order to become a millionaire, you actually have to need $1 million. You can't want $1 million. What does scripture say? It says, thou shalt not want. When you want something, you stay in wanting. How you become a millionaire is actually you create a vision that is big enough that requires you to have $1 million, or you create a vision that will result in you having $1 million. So let's just say God is our angel investor, okay? If I walked up to you as an angel investor and said, hey, I need $1 million. No, I want $1 million. What would you say? You'd be like, I need a business plan. I need to know what you're going to use it for, how you're going to expand this, etc. Right? And so this is what we need to, when we're stepping to God as our angel investors, we need to be clear on what would I use $1 million for? If I gave most people $1 million right now, and this is exactly why they don't have it. If I gave most people $1 million right now, they might pay $200 towards student debt, their mortgage, and their car notes, and then the other $800 sit. This is how you know people do not need $1 million, because they don't know what they would do with it if they had it. Now, do they feel safe and secure because they have $800,000 sitting in the bank? Yes, but that is not what money wants. Money wants to be in motion. It wants to be elevated. These are dead presidents, and these dead presidents want to be resurrected. Our responsibility as stewards is to give cash consciousness. It does not just want to sit in a bank account where it's losing its value due to inflation. We see the parable of the talents. The person who got penalized or criticized was a person who buried their money. We see it in scripture. It says, do not give your pearls to swine. Well, what are your pearls? That's your money. What is swine? Where did they tell you to put your money when you were a child? In a piggy bank. They were training you from when you were a child to give your pearls to swine. We are meant to give cash consciousness and invest it in ideas, individuals, including ourselves, and investments that we believe do good of God's work. So the reason most people don't have $1 million is because they don't need $1 million. They get exactly what they need. Oh, I just want a job that'll pay me enough so I could pay my bills. So guess what you get?
That exactly.
You get a job that's just enough to pay your bills.
Like by check.
Now, if you created a vision, right, with a solid plan, and then you approach your angel investor, which is God, and it says, I need $1 million to execute on this vision that you gave me. Guess what's going to happen? you're going to find that money coming from all different directions, whether that's through pre-sales, whether that's through actual sales, whether that's through investors, whether that's through loans. You'll find the money that you need. It'll start coming to you because that energy, which we call God, wants that vision to unfold. God is working through us. The most powerful prayer that I know of is be me, God. I just want to be a vessel and be used. And so why would your creator give you a purpose and then not give you everything you need to succeed at that purpose? That would be absolutely cruel. I'm going to give you a purpose. Then I'm going to put all these obstacles in your way to make sure that you can't achieve that purpose. Once I stepped into the fact that if God gave me a purpose, I'm here for a reason, and I walk out on faith and I follow that, and I should do my best to stay in alignment with that all my needs will be met, then this thing will unfold. And that's exactly what has happened. I quit my job. I told you, January 9th, 2009. That was the bottom of the last recession. Same exact environment. Stocks falling, unemployment rate through the roof, et cetera. Just no coronavirus, but the same exact situation. Okay. But because I was being pulled by my purpose, right? Instead of trying to hustle, I was trying to align. And when you're in alignment, it is so much easier. You were engaged in the path of least resistance. I was engaged in hustling for a long time, right? And I actually became a workaholic because of it. And then I came to the awareness that this is not about hustling. This is about being in alignment, because when you're in alignment with a source that is greater than you, then you have that wind at your back, and that can carry you to places that you could never imagine. If you're just trying to hustle and do it all on your own, I'll just put it in this way. If I need to row a boat from, let's say I'm trying to row a boat from one island to the next. If I rely on manpower, I'm going to be limited by these arms. These arms aren't that big, okay? And I'm going to run out of energy, and I'll probably get stuck, stranded in the middle of the ocean. But if I use my imagination and I create a sail and I tap into a wind energy that is greater and more powerful than me, then I can actually get to that island with actually less effort. Mm-hmm. And so being in alignment means tapping into an energy and a source that is greater than you to get to the desired destination, as opposed to solely relying on manpower or willpower to try to get you there. Instead of relying on willpower, I'm trying to be in God's will, because that is the greatest power that there is.
I love it. Love it. Is it same to say that your alignment is your passion?
My alignment is my passion.
Is
my alignment is my practice. It's my practice. Alignment is my practice. So when I wake up, the first thing I do, just like plugging in my phone, right? You charge your phone every day. You charge your phone into the source, right? But we don't do that as human beings. So when I wake up, my first thing is to go meditate. I want to plug in to my source and get clarity around what I am meant to do and supposed to be doing that day, right? So alignment is my practice. My passion, I would say, is threefold. It's money, manifestation, and multifamily real estate. Those are my passions, but my practice is just to seek to stay in alignment. God, I just want to be in alignment. 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 Every single day, I'm seeking to be in alignment. Be me, God. Be me, God. Guide me. That's kind of like a meditation. I mumble it. I sing it. I hum it. Just be me, God. In this moment, right now, on this podcast, be me. Use me. Work through me as me. So yes, alignment is my practice more so than my passion.
How does someone know, like, if someone can be working a really nice job or be self-employed, or you can be a real estate agent or an investor, you're making decent money, and it's making you happy, it has you happy, but you may not be you may not be passionate about it? Or how do you know if it's in alignment? Like, how do you know you can be successful and not be in alignment? How do you know
100%.
when you are in alignment with what you are supposed to be doing here on this earth?
Yeah, very little resistance and negative stress. There is positive stress when you're seeking to grow. A bodybuilder, they put positive stress on their muscles in order to grow. But if you're experiencing negative stress and you're experiencing inner resistance, then you know you're not in alignment. Like I said, water takes the path of least resistance. So when you're in alignment, you are just going with the flow, and you're actually being carried instead of you being the one that's doing the carrying. And so you start to see things that are unfolding for you that you're like, how did that happen? Like, literally miracles are happening in your life. And I'm not talking about miracles of parting the Red Sea or anything like that. I'm talking about small miracle here. How'd that happen? You start to see all these synchronicities, all these quote unquote coincidences. You start to see how God is moving and working for you on a daily basis. I've had in the past 24 hours, I've had amazing major shifts in my life. And I've been able to take a bird's eye view and observe those. And as a result of being able to observe them, I can actually be grateful for them, right? Stuff is happening for us at all times. God is working on our behalf at all times. We just don't always have the perspective to actually see it. And therefore, because we can't see it, we're ungrateful for it. And we think that life is working against us. Life is never working against you. If you feel life is working against you, it means you are out of alignment with the laws of life. If I feel like gravity is working against me, it means I'm out of alignment. If I'm trying to fly, I need to transcend the laws of gravity with the laws of aerodynamics, right? I need to transcend those laws. So life is never working against us. The laws are what they are. The universal laws are what they are. It just means that you don't either understand them or you're out of alignment with them. And therefore you are experiencing outer and inner resistance because you are out of alignment and not aware of how the laws actually work.
And the easiest way to get back in alignment is through your practice, or whichever practice an individual develops.
Yeah, there's many different ways. For me, it's meditation. Right. For some people, it could be dance. For some people, it could be writing. For some people, it could be chanting. Some people, it's belly dancing. There's some people, it's cooking or gardening. Whatever it is to get you plugged back in, just do that. Do that.
Do what makes you feel good. Do what makes you feel alive. Do something that nourishes the soul. Do something that, and I say God uses other people to confirm whether you're on the right track or not. And the ability to influence, the ability to have somebody, your worth is measured in the amount of thank yous you receive. And just, yes, I'm totally plugged into that.
Yeah, I know for you, I seen you crossing people over, so I know basketball. You tap it. I saw you crossing folks over, man.
But that's smart, man. It's a happy place, and obviously real estate, can get stressful. And I was just talking to Jonathan about it previously, where like numbers wise, business is amazing, but like the transactions, for whatever reason, as normal transactions, as normal as it is, are slower. Random stuff is happening. The where did this come from? Like, so experiencing a lot of that, and have been feeling that way, where it's just like, yo, like this is beating me down. But that could be it, where I'm out of alignment. Even though, we do have a morning routine. I do have a morning routine to get plugged in, but it just might require extra effort, and I'm okay, perfectly okay with that. Because even like little things, like as you've been speaking on this podcast, which I'm glad we were able to do, it's very easy to be like, should we still do the even like, all right, we're off time. Should we still do it, or should I still work on putting these 3 deals together, which I know I need to do, but at the same time, this podcast did 2 things. 1, it gave values to others who are going to be listening, and 2. It was a reaffirmation through God of what needs to be done on a consistent basis to stay in alignment, which I'm thankful for. So I'm glad that I chose to put aside the temporary satisfaction or temporary values of, say putting those 3 or negotiating those 3 deals, and instead choose to do something that serves something bigger than me.
Yeah.
110%. Alrighty.
Let's switch a little bit. Let's talk about how you build your portfolio. The first one was the 3-family Brooklyn. That was a great purchase. I'll tell you that one. That was an amazing purchase. Let's talk about the next deal.
Yeah, so the next deal was actually in New Orleans. So I bought from a distance. For those of you who are in inexpensive markets like California or the Northeast, sometimes you're going to have to find a smaller secondary expensive market to expand your portfolio. So, after using FHA for that first property, it would have been 25% down for my next property, unless I hacked FHA. 25% down on $1 million home in Brooklyn was going to be $250,000. I didn't have that kind of cash, right? But guess what? Duplexes in New Orleans were $200,000 at that time. So 50 I could do. And so I found a duplex here in New Orleans that I was able to convert into a triplex. And that was my next deal. And I bought it from a distance. I Airbnb'd it from a distance when the laws here were in alignment with that. And that was a great second purchase. Then my third purchase was where I'm from, Oakland, California. I wanted to own a piece of Oakland, California because I was from there and I saw what was happening. And so I bought a duplex there, bought it in November 2017 for $480,000. It immediately appraised at 505. So I'm already up 25,000. 27 months later in February of 2021, it's at 710. So I'm up 230,000 in equity, right? Because of the principles that I teach in the multifamily movement. Right. I knew what was happening in the neighborhood, and it's really critical that people buy right. Any agent out there will sell you a home. OK, the key is to buy right. Buying right means that there's built-in equity, that there's at least 12% cash on cash return, and there's definite appreciation potential. A lot of people who are buying, especially single family homes at this moment in time, they're going to be underwater when the interest rates go up, because when the interest rates go up, then the buyer pool goes down. Right. And therefore, the value of their homes goes down. And so they're going to have bought a single family at 400,000 that the moment the interest rates go up from 3% to 4% or 4.5%, that $400,000 home is now only going to be worth 350. But they were eager to be a part of the American dream. And so they have to swallow that pill. Right. So that was the next property. Then I decided that I was done with New York. I had enough there, and I wanted to be a real estate investor. So sometimes you have to unplant yourself, uproot yourself from certain soil and move to new soil. And so once I moved to New Orleans, in 1 year, I acquired 7 properties with 25 apartments once I was here on the ground. Right? Because my real estate Rolodex expanded. I have 66 people here who have their eyes and ears open for deals from me, from real estate agents, multiple real estate agents. There's a lot of people who don't understand that, especially novice people. They sign that exclusive agreement. My agents know, because of the power that I come with and because I know my stuff, I have several agents who are always looking for me. And guess what? Who gets paid? Whoever brings me the deal.
Yep.
That's it. I'm not signing an exclusive agreement because then that cuts me off from another agent bringing me a deal. I'm not signing an exclusive agreement. So people have to know that you evaluate the deals, but your agent executes the deal. A lot of people are putting their biggest financial decision of their life in the hands of real estate agents who are not wealthy. Why would you give the greatest financial decision of your life to a real estate agent who is not wealthy themselves? I only work with agents who own multifamily real estate themselves, or at least know how to calculate cash on cash return. Most real estate agents don't know how to calculate cash on cash return because it's not on the real estate exam. So you have to have more power and more education than your agent. And then you use your agent to execute on the deal for you. But people just say, I want this many square feet, this many bedrooms, and go find it for me. No, I find my deals typically, right? And then I tell my agents to go execute on the deal. So my portfolio expanded here. Now that I'm here in New Orleans, and New Orleans is starting to get saturated and quote unquote gentrified. Actually, I call it colonized, right? There's a difference between gentrification and colonization, right? Gentrification is actually the upliftment of a community. So an entire block of Black owners could gentrify their block by redoing their facade and planting gardens in the front. They've all increased their equity, even though the block is still all Black, right? Colonization is when outsiders come in and try to displace the people who are originally from there and kick them out to start their new colony. Okay. So what we've been calling gentrification is actually colonization. But that word has so much of a sting and stigma to it that we don't use that word. Right. So that's what I saw that happen in New Orleans. As a result, the prices were going up. I was benefiting from the appreciation, of course, with the properties that I bought here. But now I'm in an even smaller secondary market to New Orleans, which is Baton Rouge. Literally, I just bought 2 properties for $40,000, not $40,000 each. I bought them for $40,000 total, as in $20,000 each in Baton Rouge. They're going to cash flow, or the rents are going to be about $750 a month. Once I finish them, I have minor repairs to do. And the cash on cash return is going to be between 40 and 50%, right? So I want people to know, especially those who are on the coast, your money does not have to work in the same city as you do. You own Amazon stock, never been to Seattle. You own Nike stock, never been to Beaverton. Your money does not have to work in the same city as you do. And so you can invest from a distance. Of course, you know, it's 25% down if it's not owner occupied. But in a smaller secondary market, 25% down may make sense. So when I was shopping for real estate in New York, it was like shopping at Neiman Marcus. But then when I was shopping for real estate in New Orleans, it was like shopping at the clearance rack at Ross, not just at Ross, but the clearance rack at Ross. That's what it felt like. So I was like, oh, they only cost that. Give me one of those, give me one of those, give me that one too, and that one. Right. So, yeah, people think because of their relationship to real estate that they want to be able to drive by the house that they own and say, yeah, I own that one. But for a lot of people, that's not how you're going to expand your portfolio unless you are already in one of those smaller markets.
Definitely me how many like agents that don't actually invest, which I've never understood like at all. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, I remember being in one class and whoever the instructor was just happened to ask like how many agents like own investment properties. And I was only maybe in the game, maybe as an agent, maybe 2 years. And there have been agents that have been there for 10, 15, 20 years, like heavy hitters of agents that didn't own property. And like, these are like, you know, heavy hitting agents, top agents where they are, you know, $400,000, $500,000 a year that own no real estate except for their own home, which I've never, I mean, no, you know, one person would own like maybe one or two like random properties, but I was like, how do you not like have more? Like, I don't understand like how you don't have more. I mean, however they, you know, handle their investments and things like that, that's totally up to them. But it never made sense. It never made sense to me why agents don't. But all good.
Good. More for you. More for you.
For the most part. For the most part. So now we're just ramping up the units, and I pretty much had the same. You know, we were able to use FHA to get us started, and we were able to build up, you know, a nice portfolio. I got one more FHA that I can use, but in the meantime, we're going after the, you know, the 25%. That which was going to lead to my next question. Before we hit the core four here, was your financing strategy behind these properties. And it seems like it's pretty straightforward at that 25%, you know, anything value add, but is it mainly those loans, or are you buying any properties cash or anything like that?
Yeah, like of course the ones in Baton Rouge, I bought those cash. We can't get financed for under $100,000. It's not worth it to the banks if they're taking 1 point, right, or whatnot. But my strategy was triplex. And then I bought the duplex from a distance, and that I've converted to a triplex. And then I bought some other smaller duplexes here. Those duplexes appreciated, and then I 1031 exchanged those 3 duplexes into larger 4plexes and a 5plex, right? So I took the appreciation and liquidated, and it didn't hit my pocket. 1031 exchange, it stays with the entity, and I use that to grow the portfolio. So typically I'm a buy and hold, but I will sell off a duplex to go get more doors, right? More doors at a great rate. So that's how I built that portfolio here, is typically by going with the smaller properties, holding for the appreciation, and then doing a 1031 exchange into a 4plex or something larger. Ultimately, I would love to have a 60+ unit and consolidate much of the portfolio. But for right now, I'm finding great deals on the ground at this level, and I'm able just to rack them up in neighborhoods that I know are going to have definite appreciation potential. And even if Biden ends the 1031 exchange or whatnot, because that's on the table, then I'll just continue to hold and just benefit from the appreciation of those properties and just do it that way. But that's typically how I've grown the portfolio. I typically don't sell, but unless I see a 1031 exchange opportunity into a larger, better performing asset.
Talk to us before the core four. Talk to us about the managing process. I know you own real estate across the coast. Talk to us about managing. Do you manage it from a distance, or do you have a team?
I mean, in Oakland and Brooklyn, I have property managers there. Property managers typically take anywhere from 7 to 10% of rent. That's perfectly fine. When you have a property manager, the investment is pretty passive unless they need your debit card or credit card to pay the plumber or something like that. So I like those. In New Orleans, I do have a property manager on most of my properties. I have 3 properties around me, and I have great tenants. So I still manage those basically because there's nothing really to manage, because I have great tenants and the properties are in great shape and condition. But the other properties that might be in B class or C class neighborhoods, I have a property manager who handles all of those, and they just send me a report and automatic payment every single month. I've also secured the portfolio by having about 40% Section 8 tenants. Those Section 8 tenants cover about 85% of all my mortgages. So even if ish hit the fan and none of my market rate tenants decided to pay for some crazy reason, right? I would still get paid on time and online through Section 8. So I have no worry. Pandemic has not affected me. I had 3 people downsize. I didn't have anybody try to get over on me and not pay rent. I had 3 people downsize because they needed something more affordable because of what the pandemic presented them. And those units have been filled. So when you screen your tenants properly and then you secure your portfolio with government funds, you're straight and your assets are protected from a cash flow standpoint.
Are you still dabbling into Airbnb? I know one of your first properties, New Orleans area.
Yeah, so I still do Airbnb on some of my units. New Orleans as a tourist city definitely got hit by COVID, but I just went to 30-day Airbnb rentals, and those numbers have been great. People, they wanted to leave. They started working from home, and they're like, I don't need to work from home in New York. Let me just go somewhere. And so I've had a lot of people come for like 30, 60 days and book those places at higher than I would have gotten for rent, long-term rent. So 30-day rentals have been great, less turnover as well. So I've been enjoying that in terms of New Orleans. Do have an Airbnb unit in New York, and California is tenanted, and then no Airbnb is in Baton Rouge. It's not really an Airbnb city.
Nice. And how many doors do you have now, or doors or properties?
I gotta count. I'm approaching 40 right now. And I actually paused for about a year and a half because I started the multifamily movement. And so I took the energy off of my portfolio and said, you know what, I got to get more people into the game, because I could have just kept all the energy focused on me, and I could have just been swiping up all the deals like I did in 2019. But I felt called to actually teach. So I became a real estate investor, then a real estate educator, and then a real estate developer. If I would have left out the education piece, my portfolio would probably be twice the size it is right now. But something called me to teach, and so now, as you know, through the multifamily movement, I've had over 124 students close on properties all across the country. You've actually helped some of them, and you are our certified agent out in the Northeast. So you can testify that this really works, and I'm teaching people the fundamentals of the game, and I get so fulfilled by helping other people create what I call regenerational wealth through multifamily real estate. And so I took my eyes not off the prize. I took my eyes off myself in order to teach. So I'm about almost at 40. And then if you add in my student stores, collectively, we as a movement, we're doing really, really well. So yep, that's the focus right now.
Last question before Jonathan takes us through the core 4. So what's next? What's next over the next 5 years, 10 years? What do you have in mind?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm actually going through the visioning process right now, sitting in prayer and going on retreat to think about those things. But this movement is going to continue to go forward. Real estate is not going anywhere. It's going to be even more and more valuable as time goes on. So I just want to make it easier for students to come through this process and close. So I'm going to be integrating some things that are top secret. You'll actually know about it as soon as I release it in the multifamily movement to help people close faster. Ultimately, I do want to create a bank where I will be able to finance people either for rehab and constructions, and then eventually, once there's enough capital, finance people who typically can't get finance for multifamily purchases with the right relationship set up if they particularly default. But of course, when you train people with the wealth consciousness, as Jonathan asked me at the beginning, I believe that people who have gone through my wealth trainings, the default rate for my buyers will be extremely low, because one, they know what they're doing, they understand money, right, through Rich and Righteous, and then they bought right. They didn't buy something just to say I bought something. So ultimately I want to create a bank, and the multifamily movement is actually more than just about multifamily property. Multifamily property is just the first asset that we're acquiring, but it's actually multiple families coming together to create regenerational wealth and elevate everybody into what I call the asset class. The asset class is when your lifestyle is actually paid for by your assets. And so this is a long-term vision. This is not a transactional thing where people come take a course and then they finish the course and then we're done. No, this is a family and we're going to be together creating regenerational wealth for a long time. And so that can manifest as a bank, manifest as financing, that can manifest as insurance, that can manifest as financial services. So I'm just asking to be in alignment and be led to where I'm supposed to be.
Awesome, man.
Awesome. So let's go on to the core four.
Yeah.
Very first question is, what is your favorite part about real estate?
My favorite part about real estate is elevating people's quality of living. A lot of my tenants, especially my Section 8 tenants, have dealt with slumlords in the past. And when they walk into one of my properties, because I care for them and I know that I'm a steward of them as human beings, one, my tenants don't leave because of how I treat them. I treat them like human beings, and too many slumlords have owned property in our communities. And this is why people actually hate landlords in general. And I get to change that narrative, and I get to support families who aren't in position to afford right now. Somebody asked me recently, I bet you don't teach this to your tenants. I would love it if one of my tenants actually stepped into that'd be the greatest success story in the world. But there is market dynamics where there are some people, because of where they're at in their life and what they have going on, they will never be in a position to own. And so they're going to need a place to live. And I'm so happy to be able to provide quality housing to those families and their kids, so that their housing isn't something that they have to worry about on a daily basis. So that's actually one of my favorite. It's the people, more so than I love working on the properties and designing how a space can be changed up. But at the end of the day, I have to be honest, it's the people, not only my tenants, but also my contractors. These are human beings and families that I get to circulate money to and through. And it's a beautiful thing.
Perfect. The second question will be, what is your favorite business or personal development book?
My favorite business or personal development book.
And you can say yours. You can say your book.
I can say Richard Righteous right here. Look how thick this came out, y'all. I didn't expect it to come out like that, but I was just being poured through. To be honest,
when I opened that book outside the package, I was like, "Oh my God, this is like an actual I thought it was book. I thought it was like a couple hundred pages. I'm like, yo, this is like this is meaty. Like this has definitely. Like it's gonna take a while to get through, but
but the audiobook is coming too. The audiobook is coming. I need
that one.
Yeah. Make sure you get John a copy. The audiobook is coming because I'm more important to being a bestseller is actually being the most read, right? And so I'm giving the audiobook out to all the people who bought it to make sure that they can consume the information and get it in their system and soul. But one of my favorite books of all time is actually, it's a sales book. And it's actually Green Eggs and Ham. I know this sounds crazy, right? But Green Eggs and Ham.
Explain yourself.
Explain that. And Green Eggs and Ham, Sam actually makes the character that's in the book doesn't know if they like green eggs and ham, but they initially reject it, right? They initially reject it, but Sam believes in these green eggs and ham and just wants them to try them. And so Sam continues to make various offers to this character over and over. You want it in a boat, you want it in a moat, you want it with a cat, you want it in a train, on a plane, etc. So Sam continues to make offers until what? The character says, okay, I'll try it. And when the character tries it, what happens? He likes it. And so Sam got rejected about 26 times in that book, but Sam kept showing up and trying. And when you have something that you know can help people, it's actually a moral imperative for you to actually sell to folks, because you know you can help them get to their destination faster, safer, and easier than if they try to go at it alone. And so it really helped me think. Once I saw it as a sales book, it changed the way I approached selling. And, the way I define sales is simply the process of getting someone to accept help. Sales is not some sleazy thing like a car salesman with their hair slicked back trying to get over on somebody. It's literally the process of getting someone to accept help, because you know that you can help them get what they want better and faster than if you let them go and try to do it on their own. If you go let somebody go try to buy a property on their own without you in the middle of the equation, they're going to make all kinds of mistakes. They're not going to get their PIR in on time, this and that. And they're going to be worse off because they didn't work with you. right? If I let somebody go try to buy multifamily real estate without going through my program, they're probably going to step into a deal that could have been sweeter if they just would have went through the process. So as I got more comfortable with selling, because I didn't like selling, but as I got more comfortable with selling, it has allowed me to impact and reach more people and change more lives. And so that's counterintuitive, but that is a book that I look to. And it was reading it to my daughter that I was like, wait a second. I was literally reading it to my daughter, and then the epiphany hit me, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I think Dr. Seuss got rejected 26 times before he got a publishing deal. So I think that's how he wove it into that narrative.
That goes back to being stubborn on the go, but flexible on the process.
100%. 100%.
The next question is, so when you're not helping individuals fix their mindset, helping them into multifamily movements, writing amazing books, what do you do in your spare time? Some fun things.
To be honest, I'm looking for a hobby. I don't have one right now, y'all. And I'm exploring. I don't know. I'm thinking it could be cooking. I'm thinking it could be art. Thinking it could be biking. I love playing soccer, but you have to get enough people together in order to get a soccer game in. So I was happy when I saw you playing basketball and seeing you have a crew of people. I don't know if you just went to the park or those are your boys, but I love soccer, but I haven't found a good group that's consistent to connect with. Right. So I'm looking for an individual hobby that doesn't require other people. And I don't have one right now. So I'm excited about finding it. I'm not really a traveler. Like travel doesn't really move me, and like, oh, I need to go to, I'm really a homebody. So I'm trying to figure that one out. And any recommendations, any ideas?
Try yoga.
Oh,
a mix of meditation and kind of working out.
Yeah, right. I'm with that.
I have the flexibility.
Man, yoga changes lives, man. Yeah, I love yoga.
Beautiful. Okay. Cool.
Do you
do yoga. Yeah. See my post.
Yeah, shout out. I have the flexibility of a
Don't make me get up and do a pose right now.
Don't hurt yourself. I'm pretty sure you got it, man. I have the flexibility of a wishbone, so I definitely don't see me doing any yoga, but running. And to your point though, but basketball, especially like when it gets warm out, just Sunday, it's therapeutic. And that was my whole entire childhood, pretty much up to, I'd say about 21, like after college, and you're like, damn, like I'm not going to make the league for sure now. Like, so what else I'm going to start doing? And, that's 18, 19 years, pretty much. I mean, obviously wasn't playing at, as a toddler, but, you figure from 3 or 4 years old, like that's what you were doing. And, so that's always my happy place, but yeah, all good.
Yeah. Last question.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find you?
People can find me. The easiest place is where everything is getfreenow.com. Getfreenow.com. That's the easiest place to go to. You'll find my Instagram handle there. That's where I put out the most free content. And then you also find my webinar for the multifamily master plan there, as well as the Rich and Righteous book for those of you who are interested in acquiring that. When you get the Rich and Righteous book, you get 5 copies and a copy. You can get 5 copies of the book and you get the Rituals workbook, all for the price of one. The reason why is I want to immediately put you in a space of circulation and giving. So the other 4 books are actually meant for you to give and actually to start a money manifestation mastermind group with. It's not a book that's meant to be read alone. So that's why I did it in that way. I've never seen that done before. And I want to circulate this good energy to as many people as possible. So that's getfreenow.com.
For everybody that's listening, like when the show does go live, if you share it and show a screenshot that you did share it, we are going to select one individual extra copies of the book, and you will get a copy of the book. Jonathan, you already got it. Well, you'll be getting a copy. Just remind me. But we got these copies to give away, and I realized I was like, why is he giving away 5? Like we just need like one copy, and 5. Is a excellent number to start with. So I think it was 5 lows and 2. And at that point, you're spreading it away. So awesome, man. I appreciate you coming onto the show. Thank you for taking the time, especially considering that I know we're all running around on appointments and meetings and things like that, and stuff might have to get pushed back. But I like to say that there is no time management. There's only action management and what gets done. And at the end of the day, it got done.
It got done, indeed. I appreciate you both, brothers. And let me know when it goes live. I'll definitely share it out.
Absolutely. Y'all be safe.
All right. Much love.
Thank you. Have a good one.